Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Trader Talk with our friend Charting Man Dan. How are you, Dan?
Good, Alex. How are you?
Pretty good. Normally, we're talking about the charts or the positive outlook for cryptocurrency, but today I want to do something different and talk about the bearish case. So, what can go wrong? Because I'm definitely a believer that this is all going to grow in the future, and I'm a perma bull, I guess, for that reason. So, just quickly, Dan, what are your thoughts on that side of things?
Well, it's definitely important because we always talk about having a game plan when you're investing or trading in anything. You want to have best case scenario and you want to know what the worst case scenario is, and that allows you to plan for the unknown. The last thing you want to do is be in a position and then something you never thought of happens and it's a bad scenario. So definitely want to have a game plan for whether you would exit and look to enter lower, or at what point monetarily, if you're trying to manage your own risk, at what point is it no longer safe for you to have your funds dwindle away, and when would you exit? So for me personally, really, I think worst case scenario is based around governments and around cracking down in that regard. And I know Bitcoin and these projects can survive regardless of that, but just in terms of widespread adoption, that's going to be a huge speed bump, or it would be a huge speed bump that would slow everything down, and it would definitely make a lot less people interested in this space.
That's definitely one of the talking points I've got here on my list. But I think the first one, and something you've spoken about, is getting that next wave of retail investors in, because that's definitely what drove that momentum towards the end of last year. So I read a statistic the other day that 7% of Americans believe chocolate milk comes from brown cows, and 48% don't know where it actually comes from. So are people interested in crypto? Do they care about the issues with money in the financial system? I guess that's what I was getting at.
I think the core believers do, and I think that the run up in 2017 attracted a ton of people that don't know. And honestly, that's something that was a little bit detrimental to the space, where you have everybody running around like chickens with their heads cut off, not knowing what's going on. I'm losing money. This was supposed to be easy. What even is Bitcoin? I don't know what this is. And that's obviously not something that you want to be representing the this technology. So those are some funny statistics, and it definitely leads you to remind yourself of what people are like out there. But it is important for another wave of people to come on, because it's all supply and demand was used up. So that wave of demand is gone, and supply has, it's still there. So the next wave, in my opinion, the easiest next wave is these exchanges, the backed exchange, the potential Fidelity exchange we've got coming out. That is going to attract people that otherwise have hurdles and may have been limited. And I can't stress my personal situation enough, where I would be trading cryptocurrency with more money if it was very easy for me to transfer in and out of my Fidelity account. And I know a lot of other people are in the same boat, where they would be open to the idea of exploring this asset if they didn't have to go to some website they don't know about and make an exchange and what's the wallets and all this. So making it easy for the mainstream is what we need to work towards.
Yeah, and I guess that's the how do we get 10 times more money in to get the 10x fold return in cryptocurrency? It's by making it user friendly, and that's certainly something that needs to happen. The front ends of these apps, so that people don't really realize they're using cryptocurrency, is a big one, I think, as you say. And people like yourself that would put more money in if Fidelity have an insured, a better platform. But even the average user that can just download an app and press a few buttons rather than go through the full KYC on exchanges, there's stuff like that coming where you can link your bank account pretty quickly and sort of fast track that KYC. So all those things need to happen if we want to get that next wave of people in. And I picture it as, I don't want 10 times more people in just for the sake of it. I want those people using crypto. When they go on holiday, I want it to be cheaper for them to use Bitcoin than to get exchange cards. So it's not just turns into this sort of pyramid thing. Oh, can we get more people into crypto to pump the prices up? We want 10 times more people in Africa using this for remittance. All those sort of things that make that next layer.
I definitely had a fundamental aha moment last year in Austin. My buddy is a big believer in Dash, so he's involved in that community. And there was an event that they put on, music. It was during the South by Southwest. It's a big music festival. and it was music and 25-cent beers and 25-cent tacos, and everybody was paying with Dash. And I was sitting there before this thing happened, and I was thinking, oh man, this is going to be a mess. People are going to come to this and say, I have no idea what this stuff is. But they had people in a line outside, one person explaining, hey, you need this app on your phone. This is what you do. And I was so astounded at the amount of people that they filtered through there in a timely fashion, hundreds of people. And these people had never heard of a cryptocurrency before for the most part. So I definitely leveled up my belief in what was possible actually witnessing it. So that was good for my core fundamental beliefs as a cryptocurrency, interested human.
Yeah, I think Dash is a bit of a smoky for one that might be on Coinbase once they add 10 coins. I've got a fair idea. We might make an episode about that, Dan, which ones they're going to add. But as you say, real world use case, big community, they want to make payments easy for the average person. Manipulation. So I don't want to put on my tinfoil hat and say that there's lizard people in these boardrooms that make these decisions that gold and silver can't go up and Bitcoin, but I certainly think there's efforts to make the US dollar look strong while it's the world reserve currency and it sits behind oil and that sort of thing. So do you believe in manipulation, or do you think that there's all this money being built, these infrastructure, these guys want to collect the fees, or is that a different group of people to the ones that don't want to see the price go up?
I definitely think there's manipulation in anything money related. I think that the United States has gone to war over the dollar before to a lesser, an indirect reason. But yes, so there's always something going on behind the scenes when there's significant money involved. And especially in an unregulated place like cryptocurrency, there's manipulation going on. It happens in the stock market. I've been saying this for a long time. It's all over the stock market where it's federally illegal. And of course, it's not illegal in the cryptocurrency space. So people have been saying, this weekly chart now is so tight for Bitcoin. This has to be manipulation to be holding the price here. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's not at the point on the chart where I'm going to say this is unnatural. And if we stay in this sideways channel for another 3 weeks, I'll start to say, all right, something's up. This is not natural, but I'm not there quite yet.
Yeah, I actually think that Bitcoin could have well broken down. So the fact it's holding up well, I think is relatively good. And we got the BAT news today, so let's see if that's enough to break bullish out of this tightening pattern. So the one you mentioned initially was government control. So governments can really, at the end of the day, only regulate the on-ramps and off-ramps. So they can say it's illegal for everyone in Australia and the US to use Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, if I send you some crypto from an address that's not an exchange or whatever, no one knows. They can't really control this. So what do you think about all that?
Yeah, like I said, it's not going to go anywhere in terms of them squashing it, but they can absolutely hinder the adoption. They can make it very difficult, and they can make a lot of people lose interest in it. So that is definitely not something that we want to see. The diehard Bitcoin people say it doesn't matter what the governments do, and to a certain degree that is true. But again, if you want to wait another 20 years and maybe a financial collapse, and then a lot of people think that's going to happen sooner, but it's going to stick around, and it will be a store of value, in my opinion, if things get really bad in general markets and in currencies. But in terms of if we have any kind of government, if the U.S. government came out and said it's no longer legal to put your money in cryptocurrency, it would without a doubt slow things down. It would take us back years, and that's the last thing that we want to see.
Yeah, and it depends on your regional economic conditions. If the US were to say that and everything's going along all right, then it just gives retail investors an excuse not to get interested. But if the dollar was hyperinflating at the time and there's a dark market or a black market and people can buy Bitcoin, but they're going to pay a bit of a premium and it means not losing their life savings, then they can say illegal all you want. And that's what we see in Venezuela, where they say you can't do this, or Greece, you can't do that. People go to localbitcoins.com and they buy them on these sort of grey markets, I guess they're called. Any final thoughts, Dan? I guess scalability was one that I just want to touch on quickly. Bitcoin's developing the Lightning Network, and Ethereum's got those projects that are working on second layer solutions. So I don't think that's an unknown. I think that's just a matter of time until it gets rolled out wider.
Yeah, my final thoughts are, we just talked about fundamentally what would happen for negative on the chart. For technicals, the worst case for me would be a slow bleed of bear flags on the weekly time frame. So not a dump, not a capitulation kind of 20% dump in a couple weeks. it would be what we saw a couple months ago on the 4-hour time frame, where we would get a little bounce, it cools off the RSI levels, and then we get another leg down, and it just keeps doing that slow stair step down. So a slow bleed would be that would be more bearish to me than, a dump, getting it over with and ripping the band-aid off. So that's something I'm keeping an eye out if we do end up breaking this pattern bearish.
Yeah, and if we get back to come online and we get an ETF online early next year and we started to still make lower lows, that would be pretty worrying, I think. But I think it's hard to make a case for all those new people entering and prices going down. Cool. Oh, well, thanks for joining us, Dan. I hope you guys have enjoyed that. Something different. It's important to be open-minded and think about what can go wrong as well as what can go right.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Cheers.